2025 associated with small arms and light weapons. Let me start with the positive development. Member states have taken significant steps to strengthen our global instruments. A landmark of the global framework for through-life conventional ammunition management in 2023, addressing a long-standing gap in international efforts to prevent the diversion of ammunition and mitigate the risks of unplanned explosions at munition sites. In 2024, states reaffirmed their commitment to combating the illicit manufacturing and trafficking of these weapons at the 4th Review Conference on the Program of Action on Small Arms and Light Weapons, and set the course forward. The conference established an open-ended technical expert group to examine developments in technologies and design of small arms and light weapons, an important step in ensuring our frameworks remain fit for purpose in light of ever-evolving technological innovations. The implementation of this universal instrument, alongside others, such as the Arms Trade Treaty and the Firearms Protocol, represents a critical foundation for preventing diversion and misuse of small arms and light weapons. At the regional level, we have also seen strengthened cooperation, notably through the adoption of the Central America and Dominican Republic Roadmap on Small Arms and Light Weapons, and the continued implementation of the Western Balkans Roadmap, the Caribbean Firearms Roadmap, the Action Plan for the Implementation of ECOWAS Small Arms Convention, and the African Union's Silencing the Guns Initiative, and other efforts. However, despite these important advances, significant implementation challenges remain. More than 1 billion firearms are in circulation globally. Their continued proliferation is both a symptom and a driver of the multiple crises that our world is facing. Their widespread availability underscores the urgent need to address the consequences of illicit small arms and light weapons, which are far-reaching. Allow me to highlight 3 areas of critical impact which have a cascading effect. First, the illicit trade and misuse of small arms and light weapons fuels armed violence, terrorism, and organized crime. Indeed, the Secretary General's report, which we are discussing today, documents persistent violations of arms embargoes in contexts such as Libya, Yemen, and Haiti, where diverted weapons are arming criminal groups and terrorist networks. These are facilitated by poorly manned borders and increasingly by illicit digital activities. Even in countries where arms embargoes have been partially lifted or lifted, such as the Central African Republic and Somalia, diversion risks persist. More broadly, however, weapons diverted from national stockpiles or at any point through the supply chain could end up in the hands of non-state armed groups. In parallel, we are witnessing a rise in illicitly manufactured and craft-produced guns. More 3D printed small arms are available in illicit markets, especially in countries across Western Europe and Latin America and the Caribbean. In the Caribbean, CARICOM declared crime and violence a public health issue as firearms trafficking reached crisis levels. In Haiti, criminal groups expanded their territorial control, using trafficked weapons to challenge state authority and deepen insecurity. In Africa, illicit flows of small arms and light weapons in West Africa and crisis, transforming localized violence into even more complex cross-border conflicts. As the African Union High Representative for Silencing the Guns, and my co-briefer today, Dr. Mohammed Ibn Chambers, has rightly pointed out at the Security Council Area Formula meeting on small arms and light weapons in March, also convened by Sierra Leone. This crisis is not only an issue of weak supply chains, but a symptom of deep-seated governance crisis. Weak public safety mechanisms and limited state capacity are prompting communities to arm themselves for protection, further fueling insecurity. While small arms may be intended for civilian protection and self-defense in most countries, they too often become instruments of human suffering when used without effective control. Indeed, the second impact I wish to underscore is the devastating human cost of small arms. In 2024, the Office of the High Commissioner for Human Rights recorded at least 48,000 conflict-related civilian deaths, representing a 40% increase from the previous year. In certain conflict areas, small arms were responsible for up to 30% of civilian deaths. Meanwhile, between 2022 and 2024, 88% of documented cases of conflict-related sexual violence involved the use of firearms. These abuses are preventable, but prevention requires targeted investment and sustained and coordinated action. That leads me to the third impact I wish to highlight, which is the socioeconomic toll of small arms proliferation. Small arms violence disrupts education and healthcare systems, and more broadly, undermines sustainable development. This connection was acknowledged at the first ever joint meeting of the Economic and Social Council and the General Assembly on Small Arms and Light Weapons earlier this year. At that meeting, both presidents of ECOSOC and General Assembly also highlighted the rising global costs of conflict and military expenditures as a critical concern. To illustrate the scale of this concern, in 2023, the combined revenue of the world's 100 largest arms companies amounted to $632 billion. In 2024, global military expenditure had surged to $2.7 trillion, representing a 37% increase since 2015. The Secretary General's report, titled "The Security We Need: Rebalancing Military Spending for a Sustainable and Peaceful Future," issued in response to the Pact for the Future, is a call to action. It urges the international community to rethink priorities and rebalance global investment towards the kind of multidimensional security the world truly needs. Mr. President, distinguished members of the Security Council, while the impact of illicit small arms and light weapons are profound, the Secretary General has suggested some concrete actions to collectively and respectively turn the tide. First, we must prioritize comprehensive weapons and ammunition management across the entire life cycle of weapons, from the point of manufacture, transfer, transport, retransfer, stockpiling, to their eventual use or disposal. States are encouraged to strengthen national capacities and share good practices with each other for secure stockpile management, enhance marking and tracing systems, recovering of obliterated marking on weapons, and enhanced border and maritime controls. Innovative technologies for marking and tracing, such as the use of chemical taggants for ammunition, offer promising tools to deter diversion and support investigations. Effective tracing is also essential for monitoring compliance with arms embargoes. In this regard, the Secretary General urges member states to actively support the work of United Nations expert panels by responding promptly to tracing requests and granting access to seized weapons and ammunition for inspection. Beyond sanctions regimes, the Security Council has a central role to play in ensuring effective weapons and ammunition management. I urge the Council to systematically integrate small arms and ammunition consideration into its relevant mandates. That includes United Nations peace operations, where Resolution 2616 of 2021 already calls for UN entities to assist states in combating illicit arms flows, as well as during DDR processes where effective arms control is essential to sustainable peace building. To support this integration, my office has developed practical tools, including the newly launched third edition of the Aid Memoir on options for weapons and ammunition management in decisions of the Security Council, and an online dashboard, which provide guidance for drafting of resolutions to effectively include small arms and ammunition considerations. One area where such integration is especially critical is in policy deliberations and actions and action plans related to the Women, Peace and Security and Youth, Peace and Security agendas. As we mark the 25th anniversary of the WPS agenda, the time has come to advance gender-responsive arms control. This includes confronting harmful social norms and entrenched conceptions of masculinity that perpetuate armed violence and hinder sustainable peace. Young people, who account for 37% of global homicide victims annually, and in some contexts are also involved in committing such violence, must be meaningfully included in prevention efforts. Their voices and lived experiences are vital to shaping national action plans and community-based violence reduction strategies. Mr. President, distinguished members of the Security Council, the weapons produced and transferred today risk fueling the illicit trade and driving the violence and instability of tomorrow. Our responsibility in this regard is clear. We must prevent the diversion and illicit manufacturing of small arms and light weapons, or we will face the consequences of deepening insecurity. Turning this responsibility into action requires practical, forward-looking initiatives centered on international cooperation and targeted technical assistance. One such effort is the recently launched Small Arms and Light Weapons Fellowship Program, which builds capacities and strengthens cross-border cooperation to tackle illicit small arms and light weapons. This initiative reflects a broader commitment to equipping member states with the tools and partnerships needed to implement meaningful change. The UN Office for Disarmament Affairs, together with our partners across the UN system, stands ready to support member states in implementing effective, inclusive, and sustainable arms control strategies. I thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Ebo, for your briefing. I now give the floor to His Excellency, Dr. Mohammed Ibn Chambers.
Thank you, Mr. President, Honorable Foreign Minister of Sierra Leone, Excellencies, members of Council. Mr. President, coming from Sierra Leone, you are better placed than most to know the havoc that small arms and light weapons can create. They do not by themselves cause wars, but they can fuel them, prolong them, and create devastating consequences, as was experienced in the Mano River Union area from where you come. The passion of the government and the people of Sierra Leone for preventing the proliferation of small arms and light weapons is therefore understood. I appreciate the opportunity to address this August Council today because one of the principal objectives of the African Union's Silencing the Guns initiative is to address the proliferation and misuse of small arms and light weapons on the continent. As we meet today, these weapons are being used to unleash horrific violence and suffering in the Darfur region of Sudan, especially in El Fasher and its surroundings, where we are witnessing acts that may very well amount to ethnic cleansing. I wish to highlight ongoing efforts in Africa towards the fight against illicit small arms and light weapons proliferation and the opportunities that exist to ensure we win this battle against a canker that has inflicted untold human loss and suffering across the continent. The Secretary General's 2025 report reminds us that the diversion and illicit trafficking of small arms and light weapons continue to fuel terrorism, organized crime, and violent conflicts across regions. In Africa, illicit arms flows sustain non-state armed groups from the Sahel to coastal West Africa, from the Horn to the Great Lakes. We are keenly reminded that in many cases, weapons that are intended to be tools of protection to enhance human security are too often diverted to perpetuate suffering, undermining governance, peace building, and the rule of law. Cognizant of this sad reality, the African Union recognizes that controlling small arms and light weapons is a prerequisite for sustaining peace and silencing the guns. That is why it is taking every step to counter the scourge of illicit flows. In this regard, the AU strategy on the control of illicit proliferation, circulation, and trafficking of small arms and light weapons provides a coherent continental framework aligned with the Silencing the Guns initiative within the context of the AU Agenda 2063. This year, the Silencing the Guns initiative and the broader AU and its partners have focused on 4 key regional strategies for combating illicit small arms and light weapons. These are A, strengthening regional coordination and amnesty initiatives. I beg your pardon. A, strengthening regional coordination and policy coherence. B, supporting national implementation and amnesty initiatives. C, building capacity of stockpile management and border controls. And D, promoting gender and youth inclusion in arms control. On strengthening regional coordination and policy coherence, the AU has during the year collaborated with the Regional Center on Small Arms and Light Weapons in the Great Lakes region, the Horn of Africa, and bordering states. The United Nations Institute for Disarmament Research, UNIDIR, and the Bonn International Center for Conflict Studies to develop the regional roadmap on weapons and ammunition management in DDR settings. This is the first of its kind in Africa. This roadmap will support and harmonize policies and data-driven mechanisms for dealing with arms in post-conflict societies, especially in the Great Lakes and in the Horn of Africa regions. The AU has also supported national implementation and amnesty initiatives through coordinated celebrations of the Africa Amnesty Month. Celebrations in 2025 were observed in Uganda, Central African Republic, Djibouti, and Rwanda. The events saw symbolic weapons destruction ceremonies and raised public awareness on voluntary disarmament and community reconciliation. Across the continent, 30,000 small arms and 200,000 rounds of ammunition were retrieved and destroyed through this process, highlighting that regional initiatives can yield successes when well coordinated and executed. Mr. President, I should emphasize that the need to strengthen technical capacities for illicit weapons control is paramount to this fight. The AU and partners' support have benefited several member states, including Somalia, South Sudan, and the Central African Republic, building their institutional capacities for managing national arms systems. Such support consolidates the Security Council's decision to lift or adjust arms embargoes when improved compliance is realized. In West and Central Africa, joint border management operations partnering with Interpol and the United Nations Office on Drugs and Crime under Operation COFA 4 and 5 enabled seizures of illicit arms in Mali, Benin, Niger, and Chad. Mainstreaming women, peace and security, and youth, peace and security into disarmament work has been one of our most beneficial engagements. This is why the African Union endorses the Women Managing Ammunition Network, which is supported by UNIDIR, to now include African women technical experts who contribute to ammunition management across peace operations. The AU also supports young people as peace ambassadors and youth peace advocates in arms control and conflict prevention. An example is our support to the hashtag Youth for Silencing the Guns initiative. As indicated in the Secretary General's report and also explicitly illuminated by the Caribbean Community Heads of Government and the Economic and Social Council, respectively, illicit arms flows are not just a security threat. They are a hindrance to development and constitute a public danger that deserves our collective attention and action. Through partnerships with UNDP on Salient 2.0, African countries are aligning the management of weapons into local governance and social cohesion strategies, and using the fight against the proliferation of illicit small arms and light weapons as catalysts for community resilience. Excellencies, I'd like to commend your distinguished council for establishing frameworks for engagement on illicit weapons through thematic resolutions, including 2370 of 2017, and 2616 of 2021, and urged greater collaboration around regional efforts, such as 1, the AU-UN Joint Framework for Enhanced Partnership in Peace and Security, and 2, the AU Master Roadmap for Practical Steps to Silence the Guns. May I also urge the increased use of data-driven and data-sharing mechanisms among stakeholders so that we can ensure improved early detection of the various forms of illicit small arms and light weapons. Your Excellency, President of Council, as we approach 2030, the message of Africa is loud and clear. Silencing the guns is not simply an aspiration. It is an imperative for peace, justice, and sustainable development towards achieving the Africa we want. It is for this reason that the African Union remains dedicated to working with this august council, the UN system, and all partners to convert arms control into a cornerstone of lasting peace on our continent. For each illicit weapon we take out of circulation, we contribute to saving lives, restoring trust, and giving peace a fighting chance. I thank you for your kind attention.
I thank His Excellency Dr. Ibn Chambers for his briefing. And I will give the floor to Ms. Roraima Anna Andraini.
Mr. President, distinguished ambassadors, excellencies, ladies and gentlemen. It is an honor to address the Security Council and to convey Interpol's strong commitment to reduce the illicit trafficking of small arms and light weapons. I commend Sierra Leone for its leadership in bringing renewed attention to this issue. And I welcome the Secretary General report, which reinforces the urgent need for collective action. Small arms and light weapons remain among the leading causes of violent death globally. They are diverted from national stockpiles and conflict zones, trafficked across borders, and sold to fund criminal, terrorist, and armed groups. This is a transnational chain of violence that can only be addressed through transnational cooperation. Mr. President, allow me to highlight briefly 3 dangerous trends. First, the established deep links between the illicit trade in small arms and the dynamics of armed conflicts. Conflict zones have become primary sources of weapons being diverted from national stockpiles into the hands of non-state actors. Interpol has detected weapons being trafficked from conflict-affected states in neighboring regions, sparking new cycles of instability. Small arms is both cause and consequence of armed conflicts. Second, the illicit trade in small arms, we know, has been said, is not a standalone threat. It fuels and finances a web of transnational organized crimes, from terrorism and drug trafficking to illegal mining and smuggling. In a recent Interpol operation led across Central and West Africa, police uncovered this convergence firsthand. Firearms traffickers were also moving mined gold with profits channeled to armed groups and terrorist networks in the Sahel. Third, as we know, modern technology has radically broadened access to weapons. Criminals can now use 3-dimensional printing to manufacture ghost guns, lacking serial numbers and other identifiers. Internet has become both a hardware store and a manual where criminals can order parts and find instructions to build inexpensive and, moreover, untraceable weapons. Mr. President, while national authorities can strengthen stockpile security and regulate domestic supply chains, no measure taken in isolation can prevent the flow of such weapons across the globe. The illicit trade in small arms is a transnational and systemic threat that requires a coordinated, global, and sustained response. As the world's largest police organization, my organization, Interpol, is uniquely positioned to coordinate this response, connecting 196 member countries to identify, trace, and disrupt small arms trafficking. Our response is built on three mutually reinforcing pillars: information sharing, operations, and capacity building. First, we facilitate the exchange of actionable information to dismantle cross-border trafficking networks. I want to stress our IARM database, the only global database of lost, stolen, and trafficked firearms. It contains over 2 million records, enabling police to trace weapons, map trafficking routes, and obviously uncover criminal networks. Partnership is very important. In partnership with UNODC and European Union, that I take this opportunity to thank, Interpol is expanding this system to include parts of stolen and lost weapons and weapon trafficked from conflict zones. Through our I-24/7 secure communication network, Interpol also disseminates real-time alerts to law enforcement. Our Interpol UN Security Council special notices provide, as you know, warnings about individuals and entities subject to arms embargoes. Interpol Purple Notice also draws attention to new modus operandi used by criminal groups. Second, we coordinate multinational police operations, translating intelligence into enforcement. Since 2016, our intelligence-led operations, called Trigger, have helped remove tens of thousands of illicit firearms from circulation. Most recently, in Central and South America, 15 countries joined forces under Interpol coordination to seize more than 9,000 illicit firearms and 300,000 rounds of ammunition, and in particular, dismantled 20 organized crime groups linked to terrorism, human trafficking, and fraud. Third, Interpol invests in enhancing the capacity of a national police to sustain these gains. In the last 4 hours, our specialized training programs have trained over 550 officers from 76 countries. Very important, we provide tools such as Firearm Reference Table, which enables effective evidence collection, and Firearms Recovery Protocol, which promotes best practice for investigations. President, Excellencies, this fight requires alignment between you, diplomatic who are here, and operational dimensions of security. Diplomatic leadership, I'm convinced, we are convinced, in the multilateral arena is essential to translate political will into concrete cooperation among countries that make our work, make law enforcement more effective on the ground. Allow me, in conclusion, to warmly recommend the UN Security Council to continue engaging Interpol expertise and to recognize our role, its role, within future resolutions and declarations. Interpol global policing expertise is an instrument already at your disposal, in your hands, to give effect to the Council decisions on peace and security. It is also important that you help us to urge member states to make full use of Interpol tools and strengthen them. Presidency, dear Excellencies, thank you for your attention.
I thank Ms. Andreani for her briefing. And I will give the floor to Dr. Arnaud Descartes.
Monsieur le Président.
President in office, members of the Security Council. Allow me to begin by thanking you for your invitation to this special meeting on small arms and light weapons. I'm pleased to respond to this invitation addressed to me as Executive Director of VDH, a Haitian civil society organization active in all 10 geographic departments of the country, working with and for young people and striving to ensure civil society participation in public policies and in the pursuit of stability and national consensus in Haiti. My work, therefore, is that of a Haitian professional who, on a daily basis, is facing Haiti's harsh realities while continuing to provide the services to which I have committed myself. For example, between November 2024 and November 2025, with the support of my VDH colleagues and in partnership with BINU and the OAS, we piloted a national civil society forum on proposed actions to ensure the success of the transition process and the restoration of democratic institutions. In the area of community violence reduction, VDH coordinated the training of over 1,500 leaders of civil society organizations in the Grand North, Grand South, and West regions in order to strengthen local capacity for conflict prevention. Furthermore, in collaboration with UNICEF and government partners, we established a house for children and youth aimed at breaking the cycle of recruitment of children and adolescents by armed gangs. Mr. President, distinguished members of the Security Council, you will therefore understand that the topic under discussion today directly concerns me, because I lead an organization that works daily in the field and witnesses the anguish caused by the insecurity generated by the proliferation of weapons in my country, where firearm-related homicides are rising sharply. Let us be clear. Possession of firearms in Haiti is permitted by the Constitution, which states that every citizen has the right to possess a firearm, provided they have a permit. Indeed, in Article 268.1 of the Constitution, it provides that every citizen has the right to armed self-defense within the limits of their home, but may not carry a firearm without the express and justified authorization of the Chief of Police. Today, the massive trafficking and circulation of illegal firearms in Haiti remains a source of major concern, despite the arms embargo imposed by the UN Security Council since 2022, along with a sanctions regime monitored by a group of experts. However, the proliferation of weapons persists due to weak enforcement mechanisms and the continued activity of criminal networks. Indeed, combined sources estimate that between 270,000 and 500,000 small arms are currently circulating in Haiti, of which only about 45,000 are legally registered. It is clear that these weapons are not only in the hands of the two public security forces recognized by Article 263 of the Constitution, namely the Haitian National Police Force and the Armed Forces of Haiti. It is well known that numerous armed gangs in Haiti possess large numbers of firearms, and that, on the other hand, many individuals and private security agencies acquire weapons, particularly in the current climate of deepening insecurity. Small arms and light weapons are widely used in Haiti in cases of community violence, armed clashes between rival groups, and criminal acts. Their use results in countless injuries, deaths, intimidation, and numerous cases of internal displacement with devastating health and humanitarian consequences. Between July 2004 and February 2025, more than 4,200 people were killed and 1,356 injured by firearms, according to the UN High Commissioner for Human Rights. Access to firearms in Haiti has also led to an increase in suicides, homicides, and accidental deaths from stray bullets. The proliferation of firearms in Haiti also fuels widespread insecurity, paralyzing political, economic, and social life in the country. Today, the security situation has deteriorated to the point that land transport between the capital and provincial cities is nearly impossible. Haitian families are desperate. Armed gangs and organized crime organizations control almost all territory in the metropolitan area and in the Artibonite and Center departments, recruiting youth as operational agents for kidnappings, armed robberies, executions, and sexual violence. This bleak situation raises questions among Haitians about whether the country can hold long-awaited elections absent an international security presence since the collapse of institutional order. Haiti does not manufacture weapons. Many enter the country through illicit trafficking. So this raises two questions. What is the link between rising violence and illicit arms trafficking? And what correlation exists between the trafficking of weapons, the arming of gangs, the generalization of violence, and the weakening of the state? Illicit arms trafficking is not only a source of violence, but also it is an exponential multiplier of Haiti's crisis. A draft law in Haiti on firearms and ammunition management was developed 2 years ago with national and international support to modernize the legal framework for arms control, acquisition, and possession. However, the law has not yet been adopted, leaving in place outdated provisions that are ill-suited to current realities with the illicit trafficking. This legislative gap weakens national capacities for regulation, prosecution, and international cooperation, making it difficult to curb illegal circulation of weapons. Since 2023, Haiti has also had a national action plan on the management of arms and ammunition, aligned with the Caribbean Harmonized Roadmap for Arms and Ammunition Management by 2030. However, unfortunately, political instability and a lack of institutional coordination have hampered its follow-up. In this regard, and concerning firearms, the Haitian state must adopt the draft firearms and ammunition law harmonized with sub-regional legislation under the Security and Justice Working Subgroup of the Inter-Ministerial Task Force on DDR-RVC, Disarmament, Demobilization, Reintegration, Reduction of Community Violence, comprising 18 chapters and 187 articles, revised with BINU and UNRELEX support. Centralize arms procurement and distribution, strengthen customs and border controls, improve cooperation between police and customs agencies, and ensure that their authorized officials adopt a legal framework regulating acquisition, conduct targeted operations to dismantle effectively illicit trafficking networks, implement disarmament programs to destroy seized weapons, raise public awareness about the risks associated with firearms, provide training on safety and stock management to defense and security forces to ensure better control and protection of armories and ammunition stores. Improve weapons management systems within security institutions to prevent diversion to unauthorized users. And finally, intensify border controls to halt arms trafficking and smuggling. The response strategy must also involve strong participation by Haiti's trading partners. Indeed, countries exporting goods to Haiti must exercise greater upstream vigilance to prevent illegal arms shipments to a country whose fragility is well known, undisputable. And I welcome the U.S. administration, which this year has already seized many arms and assets. I hope that U.S. example is going to be followed by other partner countries. It is also vital to ensure stronger coordination among all stakeholders in implementing the embargo under Security Council Resolution 2794, which extends the arms embargo for another year. This system aims at preventing arms supplies to non-state actors involved in armed violence and illicit trafficking. Combating arms proliferation in Haiti must be linked to the implementation of the National Strategy on Disarmament, Demobilization, Reintegration, and Community Violence Reduction. This strategy, prepared by the former CNDDR with BINU and national partners, aims to strengthen coordination between disarmament actions, community prevention initiatives, and socio-economic reintegration of youth who have been exposed to violence. Its implementation is a key lever to reducing the demand for weapons, restoring community trust, and providing human security based on civic responsibility and peace. Similarly, Haiti will need to be able to count on international coordination and support to restore security. In this regard, I welcome the contributions of BINU, UNRELEC, and UNODC, as well as the vote in the Security Council, sponsored by the United States and Panama, of Resolution 2793, mandating the establishment of a gang suppression force. Finally, I appeal to the civic virtues of all Haitians, regardless of their political or social affiliation, to unite in opposing all illicit trafficking of arms and ammunition in order to bring back security, peace, and non-violence, and together rebuild a common path toward the restoration of democratic governance. Thank you. I thank Dr. Descartes for your briefing.
I shall now make a statement in my capacity as the Minister for Foreign Affairs and International Cooperation of the Republic of Sierra Leone. Excellencies, members of the Security Council, I thank Mr. Adedeji Ebo, Officer in Charge and Deputy to High Representative for Disarmament Affairs, His Excellency Dr. Mohammed Ibn Chambers, High Representative for the Silencing the Guns Initiative of the African Union Commission, Ms. Raima Anna Andreani, Special Representative of Interpol to the European Union, and Mr. Arnaud Descartes, Executive Director of Volontaires pour le Développement de Haïti, for their insightful briefings and recommendations. Our briefers have underscored the importance of effective mechanisms to prevent the diversion, proliferation, and misuse of small arms and light weapons, and the urgent need to mitigate their devastating impact on our communities and people, men, women, the youth, and children caught in conflict, as well as their broader consequences for international peace and security. Sierra Leone notes the continued attention the Secretary General places on this issue, including in his October 2025 report, which rightly recognizes that unregulated small arms and light weapons affect every dimension of human security, public health, human rights, social stability, and sustainable development. The report also highlights the destabilizing impact of illicit weapons flows on peace and security, particularly through their linkages to armed conflict, terrorism, violent extremism, organized crime, and emphasizes comprehensive life cycle management from manufacture and transfer to stockpiling, use, and final disposal. There is overwhelming evidence that SALW are among the leading causes of civilian casualties in armed conflict. Because they are relatively cheap, easy to acquire, transport, and conceal, they remain weapons of choice in irregular warfare. With an estimated 850 million small arms in circulation globally, about 650 million in civilian hands, the small arms trade is often cited as among the least transparent of all weapon systems. This demands that the mechanisms we establish, including arms embargoes, remain effective and consistently enforced. At the global level, the 2001 UN Programme of Action on SALW, the 2005 International Tracing Instrument, the UN Convention Against Transnational Organized Crime, the UN Register of Conventional Arms, and the 2013 Arms Trading Treaty together provide a comprehensive framework for coordinated action. The instrument guide efforts on manufacturing, marking and tracing, stockpile management, legitimate international transfers, and DDR. These instruments underpin the Council's actions through peace operation and mandate, DDR programming, and arms embargoes, complemented by key Security Council resolutions such as 2117, 2220, 2616, and 2654. While challenges remain in implementation and compliance, these frameworks are vital in preventing illicit weapons flows to conflict actors, extremist groups, and criminal networks. Regional initiatives have provided tailored, context-specific responses. As briefed by His Excellency Dr. Chambers, the African Union, through Silencing the Guns and the Bamako Declaration, has shown strong leadership in advancing a nexus approach that links peace, security, development, human rights, and the rule of law. These frameworks recognize that arms proliferation not only fuels conflict, but destroys livelihoods, undermines governance, and reverses development gains. In West Africa and the Sahel, the challenges are acute. The illicit flow of SALW, enabled by porous borders and weak regulatory systems, has intensified terrorism, organized crime, and violent extremism. These realities require coordinated cross-border approaches and the active support of the international community. Recognizing that terrorist and transnational criminal networks increasingly operate in concert, and recalling relevant Security Council resolutions, including Resolution 2370, which underscores the imperative of preventing terrorists from acquiring weapons, we must address the growing nexus enabled by illicit arms flows, porous borders, growing nexus, weak regulatory mechanisms, and emerging threats such as craft-produced and 3D printed firearms. In the Sahel, terrorist groups and criminal syndicates exploit trafficking corridors that move in both directions, linking conflict zones, artisanal mining sites, and coastal hubs, while revenues from illicit economies fund further procurement of weapons and ammunition. In the Caribbean, including Haiti, gangs and criminal networks have expanded territorial control using illicit trafficked firearms, many diverted from lawful markets or smuggled via maritime routes, eroding the rule of law, overwhelming institutions, and impeding development. These dynamics directly undermine the maintenance of international peace and security and demand strengthened weapons and ammunition management, marking and tracing, enhanced border and maritime interdiction, and robust judicial and law enforcement cooperation with regional organizations in Africa and the Caribbean. In response to the report of the Secretary General and in calling for a robust response to prevent the illicit sale, transfer, and export of small arms and light weapons, Sierra Leone wishes to highlight 4 points. First, global and regional frameworks must support national mechanisms for effective weapons and ammunition management. Operational assistance to strengthen legal and regulatory frameworks, institutional coordination, controls over arms transfers, stockpile management, marking, record keeping, and disposal is critical to reducing illicit circulation and preventing diversion to unauthorized users. Sierra Leone has learned from experience that removing weapons from battlefields is not enough. Long-term peace depends on enduring national systems that regulate weapons, prevent diversion, and build public trust. In 2010, we established the Sierra Leone National Commission on Small Arms by Act of Parliament to implement a holistic and integrated system for arms management in line with the ECOWAS Convention on Small Arms and Light Weapons. The Commission has rehabilitated and secured national armories, implemented marking and registration systems, trained personnel in stockpile management, destroyed obsolete weapons, strengthened civilian arms licensing and retrieval, and partnered with civil society to raise public awareness and encourage voluntary disarmament. This model were highlighted in the ARIA Formula meeting we convened on small arms control and weapons management in UN sanctions regimes, sponsored by the A3+ members Algeria, Guyana, and Somalia to address gaps in conflict-affected and fragile countries. Second, capacity building remains essential. Many post-conflict states lack the resources or expertise to fully implement international arms control frameworks or manage stockpiles safety. Targeted support through training, technology transfer, and infrastructure development can make a decisive difference. We welcome in this regard the establishment of a technical expert group at the 4th UN Review Conference on the Program of Action and International Tracing Instrument in June 2024 to develop recommendations on new development in small arms technology, manufacturing, and design. We also look forward to practical opportunities to apply emerging technologies, including improved digital marking, record keeping, and traceability systems. Third, effective cross-border cooperation is indispensable. As with other states in our region, Sierra Leone faces challenges in regulating small arms flows within and across its borders. Our compliance with international and regional small arms and light weapons commitment has benefited from active participation in ECOWAS mechanisms and collaboration with the Mano River Union neighbors, Liberia, Guinea, and Côte d'Ivoire, to prevent cross-border arms movement. We also work closely through the West African Action Network on Small Arms to improve intelligence sharing, border control coordination, and law enforcement cooperation against illicit trafficking. We recall the African Union Peace and Security Council's 1085th meeting of 18 May 2022, which called for a continental strategy to address illicit firearms and emerging weapon systems and emphasize closer coordination with African members of the UN Security Council. It is in this regard that we have elevated today's discussion on the Secretary General's report on small arms and light weapons to an open debate to generate the appropriate level of attention and action. Fourth, arms embargoes and DDR must be fully integrated into peace processes. Sierra Leone's own experience demonstrates this very clearly. During our civil conflict, fueled by the flow of illicit arms and illicit diamond trade, the Security Council's arms embargo imposed in 1997 was crucial in constraining the conflict. Coupled with the effort of the United Nations mission in Sierra Leone, it created the conditions for peace to take root. The subsequent DDR program successfully disarmed over 70,000 ex-combatants and collected more than 25,000 small arms, 1,000 heavy weapons, and nearly 1 million rounds of ammunition. Achievement made possible because weapons were not being replenished during the peace process. Distinguished Council members, Sierra Leone approaches this issue not from theory, but from lived experience. We know the devastation that unchecked arms and proliferation can cause, and we also know the hope that can be restored when weapons are silenced and peace takes hold. We therefore reaffirm our commitment to combating the spread of small arms and light weapons through strong national systems, effective regional cooperation, and global solidarity. We underscore the critical role of the Security Council in promoting comprehensive approaches that integrate small arms control into peace operations, conflict prevention, sanctions regimes, maritime security, and post-conflict reconstruction strategies. Sierra Leone stands ready to share its experience with post-conflict countries and to work with all partners in building a safer, more peaceful, and secure world. I thank you. I shall now make a statement. I resume my function as President of the Council. And I'll give the floor to Her Excellency Ms. Gina Kim, Vice Minister for Foreign Affairs of the Republic of Korea.
Thank you, Mr. President. I also thank Mr. Adedeji Ebo, His Excellency Mohamed Ibn Chambas, Ms. Raina Ana Andriani, and Dr. Arnudez Cordes for their insightful briefings. Well, this meeting is very timely as this year marks the 10th anniversary of the Security Council Resolution 2220, which reaffirms the Council's commitment to preventing and addressing the illicit trade in small arms and light weapons. Yet a decade later, the international community continues to face persistent and increasingly complex patterns of diversion and illicit trafficking, which fuel and prolong armed conflict, organized crime, and terrorism, and undermine stability and sustainable development, especially in fragile and conflict-affected contexts. The Republic of Korea reaffirms its steadfast commitment to the effective implementation of the UN Programme of Action, the International Tracing Instrument, and the Arms Trade Treaty. We also welcome the launch of the Global Framework for Through-Life Conventional Ammunition Management and recognize the important role in reducing risks posed by inadequately secured or surplus ammunition. We look forward to further strengthening coherence and complementarity among these international instruments. Mr. President, as the body entrusted with the primary responsibility for international peace and security, the Security Council holds a distinct mandate in curbing illicit arms flows through the effective implementation of its arms embargoes. The Republic of Korea strongly supports their full and consistent implementation and continues to contribute to capacity building to assist member states in this regard. We also underscore the indispensable role of panels of experts and relevant subsidiary bodies in monitoring and reporting on compliance. Emerging technologies present both opportunities and challenges for small arms and light weapons control. AI-enabled data systems and enhanced marking and tracing tools can strengthen diversion prevention and supply chain monitoring, while additive manufacturing and modular weapon designs complicate enforcement. The Council should therefore work to responsibly harness new technology while addressing associated risks to ensure that control mechanisms remain effective and fit for purpose. Mr. President, the impacts of illicit small arms flows differ across regions, shaped by various security dynamics. The Republic of Korea supports tailored, context-specific approaches, including strengthened cross-border cooperation and regional capacity building. We also note with concern that the diversion and misuse of small arms disproportionately affect women and girls, and underscore the importance of their full, equal, and meaningful participation in arms control and disarmament processes, consistent with the Women, Peace, and Security agenda. Likewise, youth, who are often among those most directly affected, play a critical role as community leaders and peace builders. Their meaningful engagement is essential to developing sustainable and locally grounded solutions. The illicit proliferation of small arms is a multidimensional issue, intersecting with peace and security, development, human rights, and humanitarian concerns. Addressing it requires coordinated and inclusive efforts at the national, regional, and multilateral levels. In this regard, the Republic of Korea welcomes the Secretary General's biannual report on small arms and light weapons, which provides a comprehensive assessment of related challenges. We encourage the continued strengthening of coordinated efforts to advance effective and sustainable solutions. The Republic of Korea remains committed to working closely with all partners to translate our shared commitment into concrete progress toward a safer and more peaceful world for all. Thank you.
I thank Her Excellency Ms. Kim for the statement. And I will give the floor to the representative of Greece.
Thank you, Mr. President. Your Excellency, my delegation warmly welcomed your presence in today's meeting. I want to thank Sierra Leone for convening this important debate, as well as the briefers, Mr. Ebot, Dr. Chambas, Ms. Andriani, and Dr. Descartes, for their insightful remarks. Mr. President, Greece takes note of the alarming key finding of the Secretary General's report on small arms and light weapons, that the diversion, illicit transfer, and misuse of small arms and light weapons have continued to lead to violence and acts of crime and terrorism, undermining peace and security at the national, regional, and global levels. I wish to highlight 3 points. First, we must uphold the existing instruments aimed to prevent the diversion of small arms and light weapons. Greece views the UN Programme of Action to prevent, combat, and eradicate the illicit trade in small arms and light weapons in all its aspects as the universal framework to address this threat posed by illicit small arms and light weapons. My country remains committed to its implementation and has undertaken the appropriate actions through annual reporting and provision of additional data on arms transactions. Following the successful outcome of the 4th Review Conference on UN Programme of action on small arms and light weapons, we are now calling all states to implement the political declaration and action-oriented measures for the period 2024-2030 as agreed during the conference. We also consider the Arms Trade Treaty as an indispensable tool for curtailing the illicit trade of conventional weapons. We call on all states to ratify or accede to the treaty without further delay and on the parties to comply with their obligations. Moreover, we actively supported the establishment of the global framework for through-life conventional ammunition management. After the preparatory meeting of states held last June, it is important to work together towards an effective follow-up and review mechanism ahead of the first meeting of states scheduled for 2027. Second, the diversion of small arms and light weapons has a strong regional dimension. The Caribbean, the Great Lakes region, the Horn of Africa, and coming to our immediate neighborhood, the Western Balkans, are regions that are suffering the most from widespread diversion of illicit small arms and light weapons. Greece supports regional instruments, processes, and regional cooperation to strengthen border security and export and import licensing systems. We commend the valuable work of the Southeastern and Eastern Europe Clearinghouse for the control on small arms and light weapons. Also, we reiterate our support to the implementation of the Western Balkans Small Arms and Light Weapons Control Roadmap. In Africa, we fully support the African Union's initiative Silencing the Guns as an indispensable tool for sharing information, enforcing embargoes, and building the capacity of affected states to combat illicit arms trafficking. Third, we must address the impact of modern technologies on the production and circulation of small arms and light weapons. As the Secretary General stated in his report, developments in SALW technology, manufacturing and design present both challenges and opportunities to prevent and combat illicit small arms and light weapons. In this regard, we hope that the newly established open-ended technical expert group to be established under the Programme of Action on SALW and the implementation and the International Tracing Instrument will develop recommendations on small arms and light weapons manufacturing, technology, and design, in particular on polymer and modular weapons and firearms produced using 3D printing. We also call upon the Security Council to consider these technological developments, especially when designing the mandates of peace operations. Moreover, Mr. President, we stress the need for this Council to address the role of small arms and light weapons in grave violations against children in its resolution and deliberations, including through the Working Group on Children and Armed Conflict, which Greece is honored to chair. In conclusion, Mr. President, as an elected member of this Council, Greece will continue to work constructively and inclusively towards strengthening the unity and effectiveness of the Council in ensuring the effective control and management of small arms and light weapons, and thereby to promote peace and security worldwide. I thank you.
I thank the representative of Greece for the statement. I now give the floor to the representative of Panama.
Muchas gracias, señor.
Thank you very much, Mr. President. Panama would like to thank Sierra Leone for your leadership and commitment in keeping the Council's attention focused on this issue. And to the Minister for Foreign Affairs, Timothy Kaba, Minister for Foreign Affairs and International Cooperation of Sierra Leone, thank you for presiding over this meeting. I'd also like to thank the briefers that have honoured us with their briefings today. Very interesting presentations, all of them. In 2024 alone, more than 48,000 deaths related to armed conflicts were recorded. That was an increase of 40% compared to 2023. Small arms and light weapons are directly linked to the persistence and prolongation of violence. Curbing their flow is not only a necessity, it is an indispensable condition for achieving lasting peace. These weapons are true weapons of mass murder. They pose a threat to peace, security, and sustainable development. Therefore, we should not only consider efforts to contain military spending, which reached $2.7 trillion in 2024, but ideally we should also seek to redirect it towards development as a means to prevent conflicts, turning such expenditure into a more lasting investment in the pursuit of security and peace. We are concerned that hundreds of weapons and thousands of rounds of ammunition end up in the wrong hands. As the United Nations Office on Drugs and Crime has warned, these could be enough to arm a small army. This risk is particularly alarming for countries such as Haiti, where illicit trafficking fuels violence and weakens institutions. President, we also see with concern the growing link between organized crime, armed conflicts, and terrorism, woven together by the illicit trafficking of weapons. This phenomenon multiplies violence, it erodes governance, and prevents trust being rebuilt. We urge all states to strengthen arms control, particularly bearing in mind the Security Council's embargoes, both external, namely to stop illicit trafficking in exports and imports, as well as internal, in order to prevent the diversion of state arsenals. In this regard, we underlined the need for a timely exchange of information and cooperation between states in order to improve traceability, transparency, and the early detection of diversion. President, we are concerned about the emergence of new forms of manufacturing and transfer, such as 3D printed weapons, modular assembly, and digital trading of components, among others, which are benefiting from technological progress. It is urgent that we move towards clear international norms and updated national frameworks to address these challenges. Panama underscores the importance of disarmament, demobilization, and reintegration as tools for prevention and reconciliation, particularly in post-conflict contexts, where the proliferation of weapons among former combatants threatens civilian protection. We note that the proliferation of small arms and light weapons disproportionately affects women, increasing sexual and gender-based violence in conflict settings. Therefore, Panama supports the Secretary-General's call to coherently integrate the Women, Peace and Security agenda into arms control processes and DDR programs in order to strengthen peace building. Furthermore, we recall that international humanitarian law and human rights must guide all arms transfers and use. Irresponsible supply can facilitate serious violations, including attacks against civilians and humanitarian workers. We believe it's essential for the Security Council to systematically integrate weapons and ammunition management into its resolutions. We also urge all states to accede to the international instruments, many of them have been mentioned here, aimed at preventing, combating and eradicating the illicit trafficking of small arms, light weapons and their ammunition. At the regional level, we highlight the adoption in February 2025 of the Regional Roadmap to prevent the illicit trafficking of weapons, ammunition and explosives in Central America and the Dominican Republic. This was a concrete step towards cooperation and shared security, which, as a good practice, we are willing to share with other regions. Mr. President, we are all aware that most conflicts have no military solution, and this is something that we frequently repeat here. Therefore, it is surprising that while we are motionless in inexplicable complicity, showing ourselves incapable of acting to prevent time and again these conflicts from being fueled by weapons, not only small and light ones, but worse still, heavy caliber arms, and with this promoting continued escalation of conflicts and the escalation of violence at the expense of civilian populations, the suffering of women and children, for the exclusive benefit of the pockets of manufacturers, suppliers, and intermediaries. They are thriving comfortably, feeding on the blood of others. With these comments, we take note with appreciation of the Secretary-General's report, and we reaffirm our commitment to continue taking action in close coordination with countries of our region and with international and regional organizations such as UNODC, the OAS, and UNRELEC in order to reduce illicit arms flows in line with SDG Target 16.4, including through the strengthening and capacity building of our national institutions related to this issue. Thank you very much.
I thank the representative of Panama for the statement. And I'll give the floor to the representative of the United States.
Thank you, President, and thank you to all of our briefers. Addressing illicit small arms and light weapons proliferation is a core peace and security priority, one that we believe could be more effectively managed through full implementation of UN arms embargoes and support for related enforcement mechanisms. For example, the destabilizing activities of the Houthis in Yemen would be more swiftly neutralized if states like Iran were not supplying arms and other support. This situation is exacerbated by support from their proxies. This includes some on the Security Council who block meaningful actions to implement sanctions. These actions include denying snapback of UN sanctions on Iran, obstructing updates to the UN sanctions list, and blocking appointments to sanctions expert panels. Arms embargo mandates are often in the crosshairs in Security Council negotiations. States bemoan illicit arms while also seeking to weaken arms embargoes and other UN-mandated actions to stem illicit arms flows. In addition, sweeping discussions of topics that have little relevance to the matter at hand, such as gender identity and sustainable development goals, divert attention from the core issue. We do not support efforts to further this trend, such as the Secretary General's recommendation to enhance cooperation between the first and second committees to further integrate small arms and light weapons control into broader socioeconomic themes. We call on the UN to use its scarce resources on initiatives that will yield tangible benefits for everyone. In that regard, we commend regional initiatives to elicit small arms and light weapons issues. We encourage member states to explore additional measures to strengthen implementation, including enhanced cross-border cooperation. We also recognize useful measures being taken by UN bodies, such as the Counterterrorism Executive Directorate, to identify gaps in national legal and regulatory frameworks on small arms and light weapons control. The UN Office of Counterterrorism and the UN Office of Drugs and Crime are also implementing useful capacity building programs. We welcome the Secretary General's focus on emerging technologies to combat illicit trafficking networks and the opportunities offered by new tracing tools. We urge member states to explore these tools to enhance stockpile management, improve information sharing, and prevent diversion. A good example of how we can work together to achieve concrete results is transitioning the MS mission in Haiti to a gang suppression force. This force will concentrate on Haiti's immediate critical security challenges and lay the groundwork for long-term stability. The Gang Suppression Force and the Support Office will provide support to the Haitian National Police and the Haitian Armed Forces to combat illicit trafficking and the diversion of arms and related material. These are real actions that will have positive effects and provide Haiti with a brighter future. The United States will continue to press forward with initiatives like these, ones that will make a tangible difference in addressing problems within the UN's remit. This includes upholding and enforcing snapback of UN sanctions on Iran and working to strengthen arms embargo mechanisms for Yemen and Libya. We urge all states to support these efforts. Thank you.
I thank the representative of the United States for the statement. I now give the floor to the representative of Denmark.
Thank you, Mr. President. And allow me to welcome you, Your Excellency, to the Council and commend you and Sierra Leone for putting this important topic on the Council's agenda. And let me also thank our briefers this morning for their important statements. Mr. President, the uncontrolled spread of small arms and light weapons remains one of the most persistent threats to international peace and security. These weapons are often the first to appear and the last to disappear in conflict settings. In this context, allow me to raise 3 key points. First, the impact of small arms and light weapons around the world is wide-ranging and long-lasting. In Sudan, deadly clashes fueled by these very weapons exact an immense toll on civilians, especially women and children, while also deepening an already dire humanitarian crisis. In Yemen, the illicit trafficking of weapons by the Houthis continues to prolong the conflict, with civilians bearing the brunt. And in Haiti, the uncontrolled flow of small arms and ammunition fuels gang violence and undermines the rule of law, as we also just heard from Dr. Descartes. These conflicts, just as other around the world, all have varied causes and consequences. However, it is clear that the proliferation of small arms prolongs them, makes them more deadly, and increases the risk of atrocities against civilians. Controlling the illicit flow of small arms and light weapons is therefore not only a security issue, but also a question of human rights and the protection of civilians. This human cost must remain at the forefront of our minds and continue to guide our responses. This leads me to my second point. There is an urgent need for the international community to strengthen the implementation of existing regulatory measures. Full and consistent implementation of the UN Program of Action and the Arms Trade Treaty, as well as strict compliance with Security Council arms embargoes, is essential to prevent the flow of illicit weapons into conflict zones. Effective marking and tracing systems remain key to ensuring accountability, while targeted capacity building can help states develop the institutional frameworks needed to uphold these commitments. But we also need to go beyond national and multinational measures. More than 850 million small arms and light weapons are in the hands of civilians across the globe. In this regard, Denmark supports the community-led arms control initiative, which seeks to integrate arms control into peace-building effort at local level. Mr. President, my third and final point. Control of the flow of illicit arms must be comprehensive and address the underlying causes of conflicts. This requires a multifaceted approach that includes peace-building, development, human rights, security sector reform, and governance. We welcome the integration of arms control into Security Council mandates, disarmament, demobilization, and reintegration processes, as well as peace-building and sustainable development initiatives, as was also recommended this morning by the Deputy High Representative for Disarmament here in the Council. We believe we can and should continue to mainstream this critical agenda across our work. Partnerships and continued Council support for regional initiatives remain essential, Denmark strongly supports the African Union's Silencing the Guns initiative, which plays a key role in advancing peace and curbing the illicit flows of arms across the continent, and we welcome the statement by Dr. Chambers here today. Mr. President, in closing, controlling small arms and light weapons is essential to ending the many conflicts on our agenda today. Curbing their illicit trafficking is essential to preventing others from erupting tomorrow. Put simply, addressing this issue strikes to the very core of the mandate of this Council. I thank you.
I thank the representative of Denmark for the statement. Je donne maintenant.
I now give the floor to the representative of France. Thank you, Mr. President, and welcome to New York. Mr. President, we thank the Sierra Leonean Presidency of the Security Council for organizing this open debate on a topic which, of course, very rightly deserves the attention of the Council. And I would like to congratulate Sierra Leone on its presidency and show you that you have the support of France. I also would like to thank the Office for Disarmament Affairs, the Silencing the Guns initiatives of the African Union, the Interpol, and the Volunteering for Development in Haiti. I thank them for their briefings, which showed very clearly how international peace and security can be shaken up by the dissemination of small arms and light weapons. And that was a conclusion that the Secretary General submitted to us under Resolution 2020. Illicit trafficking of small arms fuels armed conflicts, it fuels terrorism and organized crime. In particular, drug trafficking and human trafficking. It undermines also, even after the conflicts have ended, it undermines reconstruction, stabilization efforts. It causes immense suffering among civilians, particularly for women and children. The Secretary General's report notes that firearms are used in about 90% of documented cases of sexual violence during conflict. The international community must remain and strengthen its mobilization to address this scourge. And first of all, we call on all states to join and implement all relevant international instruments in this area. And first among these is the Arms Trade Treaty, which is aimed at preventing the diversion of conventional arms flows and its prevention, and the United Nations Programme of Action on Small Arms and Light Weapons. The Programme of Action's work, which will continue during their biennial meeting next June, must address challenges posed by emerging technologies, such as, for example, the additive manufacturing. France welcomes progress made on the secure management of ammunition throughout its life cycle under the global framework adopted in 2023. And we're happy to say that the resolution on conventional ammunition sponsored by South Africa, Germany, and France was widely adopted a few days ago by the First Committee. Second point, the Security Council must continue to address the issue of small arms proliferation. We welcome the fact that Resolution 2793, adopted last September, gave the new gang suppression force in Haiti a robust mandate to support Haitian armed and police forces in combating the diversion weapons and related materials and implementing the sanctions regimes on this. The Council must ensure compliance with the embargoes it has itself imposed. And in this regard, we are thinking of Yemen, in particular Libya, where the Irene operation by the EU plays an important role. The arms group and the DRC, and we welcome the adoption in June of Resolution 2783. The Council should be able to rely on the panel of experts who play an key role in its work, and we reaffirm our support to the panels and call for the swift recruitment of an expert panel for the 1737 committee, whose mandate will include monitoring an arms embargo to and from Iran. Third point, regional initiatives can also make a significant contribution closely aligned with the realities on the ground to efforts to prevent and eradicate illicit small arms trafficking. In partnership with Germany, France launched a roadmap in 2017 to coordinate our fight against firearms trafficking in the Western Balkans. It recently was extended until 2030. Continuing this initiative will help states in the region strengthen and harmonize their legislation on small arms control. Mr. President, statements made today recall for us the human, economic, and social and political cost of the proliferation of small arms. In line with the ambition we have in the Pact for the Future, it is our common responsibility to act together so as to stem this scourge. I thank you. I thank the representative of France for his statement.
I give the floor to the representative of Slovenia.
Thank you, Mr. President, and we thank Sierra Leone for convening this important briefing, and we also want to thank you, for Your Excellency, for chairing it. We express appreciation to the Secretary General for his latest biennial report, and we thank all briefers for providing us with a very holistic picture of this problem. Mr. President, every minute, somewhere in the world, a life is taken by a small arm, not by chance, but because these weapons are easy to find, easy to hide, easy to use, and too often, as we heard earlier by Interpol representative, impossible to trace. Havoc that they create is daily, quiet, almost invisible, yet their cumulative toll surpasses that of most wars. The Secretary General's report confirms what we already know. These weapons thrive in the shadows, in the cracks of governance, in the silences of law, in the failures of accountability. They flow where institutions are weakest, where borders are most porous, and where hope is most fragile. And Dr. Descartes of Haiti presentation was an illustration of that. We all know that large-scale wars capture the headlines, but it is small arms and light weapons that sustain the silent daily wars on the streets, in homes, in the refugee camps, long after peace agreements are signed. They determine whether children can go to school safely, whether women can live free from fear, whether elections can be held without intimidation, whether peace agreements endure or fall apart. Mr. President, poor stockpile management, unsecured depots, and diverted munitions are silent enablers of this instability. We must enhance weapons and ammunition management. The global framework for through-life conventional ammunition management offers a powerful new tool to address these risks. We join the Secretary General's call for Member States and the Security Council to integrate weapons and ammunition management into peace operations, sanctions regime, and post-conflict transitions. We also stress the importance of such integration of ammunition management into disarmament, demobilization, and reintegration processes, ensuring that former combatants and affected communities can rebuild their lives free from threat of rearmament. So, Mr. President, we live in a time of great and fast technological advancement. However, we believe technology should be used wisely and responsibly. The same innovations that make it easier to produce untraceable weapons can also enable better tracing, data sharing, and transparency. We must therefore make technology part of the solution, not part of the problem. These tools should be used to prevent diversion and strengthen oversight. Slovenia believes that arms control must go hand in hand with the implementation of women, peace and security and youth peace and security agendas. Point emphasized earlier by the High Representative of the African Union. Women should be meaningfully involved in all processes related to the management of small arms and light weapons. Sexual and gender-based violence are fueled by the proliferation and widespread availability of small arms and light weapons in almost all conflict settings. At the same time, many of today's young people have grown up surrounded by firearms in conflict zones, in communities affected by crime and violence, and in digital spaces that glamorize violence. What if, Instead, they were empowered to lead efforts on disarmament and to become agents of change. In the end, it is about protection of civilians. It is about whether people can live without fear, whether a community can rebuild after war, whether peace is simply declared or truly lived. I thank you.
I thank the representative of Slovenia. I now give the floor to the representative of Pakistan.
Thank you, Mr. President. We would like to thank Sierra Leone for convening this open debate. We are very pleased to see you preside over the Council today, which reflects the importance attached by your country both to this August forum and to the topic under discussion. I would also like to join colleagues in thanking Mr. Ibo, Mr. Shambas, Ms. Andriani, and Dr. Descartes for their insightful briefings that highlighted the security, human, and socioeconomic, and several other dimensions of this issue. The illicit transfer and unchecked use of small arms and light weapons, including their destabilizing accumulation, have a direct impact on intensifying and prolonging conflicts, endangering socioeconomic progress, and undermining the prospects of peace and security, particularly at the regional and sub-regional levels. In terms of their impact on local communities, small arms and light weapons are neither small nor light. Illicit weapons impede development prospects, contribute to human rights abuses, and imperil peace, security, and stability. According to empirical data, small arms are the second most used weapons in global terrorist attacks after explosives. President, as highlighted by the Secretary General's report, Africa is one of the regions most severely affected by the illicit trade, misuse, and diversion of small arms and light weapons. Illicit arms have fueled conflicts, amplified internal security threats, served as tools for terrorism, organized crime, political violence, and the erosion of rule of law, thus emerging as one of the foremost drivers of instability in the continent. Small arms and light weapons have also emerged as instruments of choice for non-state actors to perpetrate violence. These concerns are further exacerbated by the increasing sophistication of illicit arms and the accessibility of modernized weapons to illegal armed groups that frequently operate across national borders. Illicit arms thus directly threaten national security, impede counterterrorism operations, and civilian protection. Pakistan is seriously concerned about the presence of stockpiles of sophisticated arms and ammunition in Afghanistan, as noted in findings of the Secretary General's reports. These sophisticated weapons pose a direct threat to neighboring countries. We also have credible information of attempts to smuggle these arms to neighboring countries for terrorist activities. Weapons confiscated at the Pakistan-Afghanistan border are traced back to stockpiles of weapons left behind by foreign forces in Afghanistan and illegal weapons being sold across black markets in Afghanistan. The movement of unmarked or unregistered weapons across the international border sustain and aid non-state armed groups, terrorist networks, and criminal gangs, undermining regional security and stability. We are also deeply concerned at the acquisition and use of these mostly abandoned modern and potent weapons by terrorist groups based in Afghanistan, which continue to pose serious challenge to peace and security in Pakistan and the broader region. Terrorist entities including ISIL-K and TTP, Fitna al-Khawarij, a UN-listed terrorist organization, and the BLA and Majid Brigade, which operate with impunity from Afghanistan, enabled by external financing and support of principal destabilizing actor in the region, have used these weapons against Pakistani civilians and law enforcement agencies, leading to the loss of thousands of innocent lives. We urge stronger international efforts to prevent access of illicit arms to armed terrorist groups in Afghanistan and to ensure that the Afghan interim authorities adhere to their international obligations and commitments in that regard. The international community needs to step up its efforts and plug gaps in its response to effectively address these threats to international and regional peace and security. President, the evolving nature of warfare and the advent of new technologies present serious challenges in combating the proliferation of increasingly lethal small arms, such as the unmanned aerial vehicles, AI-based weapons, 3D printed small arms, and high-tech night vision equipment. Criminal groups and terrorists are increasingly utilizing technologies like cryptocurrency for anonymous transactions and employing the dark web to evade detection where acquiring such weapons. While new technologies have introduced new challenges in manufacturing and proliferation of illicit arms manufacturing, new avenues of effective control and international cooperation have also opened up, which need to be fully utilized. Traditional arms control measures designed for another era before the advent of these new technologies must keep pace with new developments. We firmly believe that the issue of illicit small arms and light weapons should be addressed comprehensively and in a balanced manner. The United Nations Programme of Action strikes a balance between legitimate security requirements of states and the imperative to address the issue of illicit arms on both the supply and demand sides. We remain committed to its implementation at the national level and call for its full execution at the global level to safeguard and promote international and regional peace and security. I thank you.
I thank the representative of Pakistan for the statement. I now give the floor to the representative of Somalia.
Thank you, Mr. President. At the outset, Somalia would like to commend Sierra Leone's presidency for convening this important open debate and welcome you, Your Excellency, Minister Musa Timothy Kaba. We have listened carefully to the briefers' statement and thank them for their contributions. The illicit proliferation, misuse, diversion of small arms and light weapons continue to pose a clear threat to the international peace and security. As the Secretary General's report notes, the illicit transfer, misuse, and diversion of small arms and light weapons have continued to fuel conflicts, criminal activities, and undermine the very foundation of safety and stability around the world. The devastating consequences of these criminal activities are felt within our societies, causing immense suffering and hindering development efforts. The emergence of illicitly manufactured, craft-produced, and 3D printed weapons further complicate countermeasures, posing an evolving threat to international peace and security. Mr. President, Africa confronts unique vulnerabilities, including extensive and often artificial borders that facilitate illicit trafficking, coupled with exploitation of ungoverned spaces by non-state armed groups and criminal actors. Effective response must be rooted in respecting the African priorities, strengthening regional mechanisms, and fostering partnership that genuinely empower African solutions. Regional organizations play a crucial role in addressing these challenges. The African Union's flagship, Silencing the Gun by 2030, and African Union's strategy represent a continent-wide commitment to ending conflicts and controlling the illicit proliferation, circulation, and trafficking of small arms and light weapons. These initiatives are a testament to our continent's unwavering commitment to preventing, combating, and eradicating the illicit proliferation, circulation, and trafficking of small arms and light weapons in the integrated and holistic manner across the region of Africa. Somalia supports these initiatives and calls for an enhanced cooperation between the UN and African Union and sub-regional organizations. We believe that cooperation should include information sharing, coordination strategies, and enforcement measures to disrupt and dismantle transnational trafficking networks that engage in illegal trade of small arms and light weapons. Mr. President, on the national level, Somalia has been working tirelessly to address the threat posed by the proliferation of illicit arms and light weapons, and to effectively manage weapons and ammunition as documented in the Secretary General's report, which recognizes progress in this regard. Somalia has been at the forefront of implementing a robust mechanism to ensure all weaponry remains under stringent state control, and has undertaken initiatives such as enhancing traceability, accountability within our national stockpiles. The establishment of Central Monitoring Department within the Office of the National Security serves as a testament to our commitment to a transparent and accountable arms management. Furthermore, the comprehensive efforts in the disarmament, demobilization, and reintegration, the DDR, continue prioritizing enhanced federal-state coordination, supporting voluntary defections, and facilitating the sustainable integration of former combatants into civilian lives. These actions are integral to breaking the cycles of violence and fostering sustainable peace in Somalia and in Africa. To conclude, Mr. President, Somalia calls on all member states to renew their commitment to effective arms control within the existing UN and international frameworks. Somalia stands ready to work with all partners toward this goal. The weapons that fuel conflict knows no borders. Our response must be equally unified and resolute. I thank you.
I thank the representative of Somalia for the statement. I now give the floor to the representative of China.
Thank you, President. I welcome Foreign Minister Kabir in presiding over today's meeting and thank the briefers for their statements. Small arms and light weapons bear on peace and development. Properly addressing this issue is vital for combating terrorism and transnational organized crime, maintaining regional peace and stability, and achieving the SDGs. According to a recent report released by SG Guterres, the proliferation, misuse, and illicit trafficking of small arms and light weapons remain grave concerns, and its governance process remains an uphill battle. Chinese President Xi Jinping proposed the concept of building a community with a shared future for mankind, and successively put forward the Global Development Initiative, the Global Security Initiative, Civilization Initiative, and the Governance Initiative, contributing China's solutions to global transformation and the pressing challenges. This is also vital for the governance of small arms and light weapons. Here, I would like to further elaborate on China's proposals. First, to take multiple measures to tackle both the symptoms and the root causes. Small arms and light weapons are not only a security issue, but also a development and governance issue. Regions such as the Horn of Africa and the Sahel lag behind in economic development, and their people live in poverty and suffer greatly from the proliferation of weapons and violent conflicts. The international community should take concrete measures to promote economic development and the social stability in the countries concerned, eliminate the root causes of poverty, violence, instability, and conflicts, and create conditions for fundamental solutions to the issue of small arms and light weapons. All countries should uphold a common, comprehensive, cooperative, and sustainable approach to security, commit to peaceful dispute resolution, eliminate global and regional security threats through dialogue and consultations, and prevent the emergence of new sources of conflict. Second, to practice multilateralism and improve the governance system. The UN should play a leading role in promoting the comprehensive and effective implementation of international legal instruments governing small arms and light weapons. Enhancing the authority, universality, and effectiveness of relevant mechanisms. Achieving mutual reinforcement among various mechanisms and striving to form greater synergy. The Security Council should provide political support for peace, reconciliation, and post-war reconstruction of the countries concerned, and help them effectively address the proliferation of small arms and light weapons in DDR and the security sector reform. Third, to strengthen capacity building and achieve through-life management. The countries concerned should bear primary responsibility for the production, storage, and transfer of small arms and light weapons. Based on their national conditions, they should make and improve laws, regulations, and institutional arrangements, enhance the effectiveness of law enforcement and control, and eliminate the illegal flow of small arms and light weapons on their territory. The international community, under the coordination of the UN and based on respect for the wills of the countries concerned, should encourage and promote bilateral and multilateral exchanges of experience and pragmatic cooperation among countries and relevant international organizations to enhance the capacity to control small arms and light weapons. Fourth, to exercise caution in arms exports to avoid enhanced risks. Countries should adopt responsible arms export policies, cease using arms trade to interfere in other countries' internal affairs, exercise caution in exporting arms to conflict zones, and refrain from transferring arms to non-state actors. With gang violence still rampant in Haiti and the proliferation of small arms and light weapons, countries where those illicit arms and ammunition originate should take concrete actions to promote the effective implementation of Security Council arms embargoes. Terrorist organizations and extremist forces in Syria are growing stronger, and the risk of their resurgence is increasing. Countries should earnestly fulfill their counterterrorism obligations, resolutely prevent small arms and light weapons from falling into the hands of terrorists and extremists, and maintaining regional and international security. Fifth, to focus on technological challenges and promote the use of technology for good. Emerging technologies create development opportunities for countries, but also pose security challenges. 3D printing, modular manufacturing of firearms, and craft-produced weapons are major issues, making it more difficult to control small arms and light weapons. The wide application of AI and big data also provides more means of controlling small arms and light weapons. China advocates technology for good and calls for strengthening exchanges and cooperation within the framework of the UN, advancing the process of small arms and light weapons control in line with the times, and supporting the practical discussions of the open-ended technical expert group of the POA and achieving positive results. President, China has always actively supported and constructively participated in small arms and light weapons governance, earnestly fulfilled its international obligations, strengthened legal and institutional safeguards, adopted a prudent and responsible attitude towards arms exports, and continuously promoted international exchanges and cooperation. Currently, China is working with the UN and the AU through the China-UN Peace and Development Fund on capacity building for African countries in this area, implementing the Pact for the Future and the African Silencing the Guns initiative. Addressing the issue of small arms and light weapons is a long-term task and important mission for the international community. China stands ready to work with all parties to further advance the process, strive to achieve lasting peace, shared security, and a world free from gun violence, and to promote the building of a community with a shared future for the mankind. Thank you, President.
I thank the representative of China for the statement. And I'll give the floor to the representative of the United Kingdom.
Thank you, President. Let me welcome you to the Council and thank Sierra Leone for convening this important debate. I also thank all the briefers for their valuable contributions. As the Secretary-General's report highlights, diversion of illicit small arms and light weapons persists across the entire weapon life cycle, from the point of manufacture, transfer and storage to their eventual use or disposal. This is exacerbated by porous borders, poor stockpile management, and emerging challenges such as 3D printing. Disrupting this pattern is critical for protecting lives in conflict zones and preventing armed violence. I'll make 3 points. First, illicit trafficking of small arms and light weapons is a transnational threat. The UK supports capacity building and cross-regional collaboration to enforce arms embargoes, improve tracing, and strengthen stockpile management. Through the UK-supported AMTAG pilot programme, Somalia has become the first country to deploy chemical taggants, which will begin to render its national ammunition stockpiles fully traceable. We commend and support regional and sub-regional approaches, including the African Union's Silencing the Guns initiative. The UK is proud to fund the Nairobi Protocol Review, led by the Regional Centre on Small Arms and Light Weapons and the UN Institute for Disarmament Research, underlining our commitment to tackling this threat at the regional level. Second, multilateral instruments and transparency mechanisms remain vital. The Programme of Action, the Arms Trade Treaty, the Global Framework, and the UN Register of Conventional Arms all play a role in preventing diversion, promoting responsible transfers, and strengthening national controls. The UK looks forward to contributing to the Programme of Action's expert group on emerging technologies to address challenges posed by polymer, modular, and 3D printed weapons, and to explore opportunities for improved marking and tracing. Finally, President, illicit weapons diversion disproportionately affects women and girls. The UN estimates that 70 to 90% of conflict-related sexual violence incidents involve weapons and firearms. As we commemorate this year the 25th anniversary of the Women, Peace and Security Agenda, effective conventional arms control can play a vital role in prevention. Women should be at the centre of these efforts. Colleagues, the UK remains committed to working to strengthen sanctions enforcement, enhance arms control, and support disarmament and post-conflict stabilisation efforts. I thank you.
I thank the representative of the United Kingdom.
Unity Broadcasting Television don't come for unify, sensitize, and inform.
Thank you, Mr. President. We would like to greet you here, Mr. Minister, in the President's chair, and we are grateful to the Sierra Leone colleagues for having chosen such a relevant issue for our open debate. And we thank the briefers of today for their briefings. We have carefully reviewed the report prepared by the Secretary General on the issue of small arms and light weapons. And we note that, in generally, it does accurately reflect the specifics of the topic under consideration. The issue of controlling the supply of conventional arms and military products, including small arms and light weapons, remains relevant. The problem of their diversion of their illicit
Unity Broadcasting Television don't come for unify, sensitize, and inform Salon people home and abroad. Unity Broadcasting TV don't come. For developments now we come to unify, sensitize, and inform we all. For developments now we nation Salon. Unity Broadcasting TV don't come. For developments now we come to unify, sensitize, and inform we all. For developments now we nation Salon. We now independent media house. We dey here for unify, sensitize, and inform Sierra Leoneans home and abroad. We dey here so waiting they happen. Political discussion, you for know about salon politics. Religious messages, entertainment, self no go left, yeah. We not go left nothing, yeah, no. Unity Broadcasting TV don't come. Developments now we country TV. Unify, sensitize, and inform we all. For developments now we nation salon. Unity Broadcasting TV don't come. Developments now we country TV. Unify, sensitize, and inform we all. For developments now we nation salon. This not the team them where we dey talk about Sierra Leone political history, defeating the lives of fake people. Waiting they be na social media. One-on-one interview, we go bring you all the hot topics. Unity Broadcasting TV say, and we let myself and better salon. Unity Broadcasting TV don't come. Developments now we country TV. Unify, sensitize, and inform we all. For developments now we nation salon. Unity Broadcasting TV don't come. Developments now we country TV. Unify, sensitize, and inform we all. For developments now we nation salon. You go get we live on Facebook and our YouTube channel at Unity Broadcasting TV. And do ya not forget to tap the subscribe button. Same way so